Okay, here we're going to look at the empirical rule for the normal curve. And the empirical rule is a fairly straightforward rule that just tells you the percentages of data that is within 1, 2, and 3 standard deviations from the mean. So mu, the mean, is right in the center. And then mu plus sigma means you're just 1 standard deviation above the mean. Mu minus sigma means you're 1 standard deviation below the mean. Mu plus 2 sigma means you're 2 standard deviations above the mean. Mu minus 2 sigma is your 2 standard deviations below the mean. So the empirical rule just states that 68% of the data values lie within 1 standard deviation of the mean. So between mu minus sigma and mu plus sigma, there's 68% approximately. So there's 34% in each of those symmetric parts. The second part says that there's 95% of the data within 2 standard deviations of the mean. So between mu minus 2 sigma and mu plus 2 sigma, there's 95% of the data. And then 99.7% of the data lies within 3 standard deviations. So between mu minus 3 sigma, so between there and here, mu plus 3 sigma, there's 95% of the data. I'm sorry, 99.7% of the data. Okay, that's the empirical rule. Now, how we use that is if we have a variable that's normally distributed, so let's just say heights of a certain animal in centimeters, follow a normal distribution with a mean of 78 and a standard deviation of 4. So what percentage of the animals have a height between 74 and 82? Well, what you do, the 1, 2, and 3 standard deviations above and below the mean. Okay, so I have the mean in the center, and then if you add 4 to that, you get 82, add another 4, you get 86, and so on. So label those standard deviations. Okay, and you can see between 74 and 82 centimeters. So what percent lie between 74 and 82 centimeters? Well, 74 is 1 standard deviation below the mean, and 82 is 1 above the mean. So that is that first part of the empirical rule. 68% within 1 standard deviation of the mean. Second question, what percent of the animals have a height between 74 and 78? Well, 74 and 78 is just 1 standard deviation below the mean up to the mean. And you could take that 68%, divide it by 2, or just in the one up here, they give you the specific values. They break it into each standard deviation. So there's 34% in that area. Okay, number 3, what percent have a height between 70 and 86? Well, 70 and 86, you can see on your distribution here, that's 2 standard deviations below the mean, 2 standard deviations above the mean. So that's that second part, or the second bullet, 95%. Okay, number 4, between 70 and 82. Well, 70 and 82, that's 2 below the mean to 1 above the mean. So just take all those areas from 2 below the mean, so that 13.5%, and then 34 and 34. Okay, so add 68, which is 34 and 34, plus the 13.5, and that'll give you about 81.5%. And then the last one, what percent have a height less than 70? Well, less than 70 means that you are less than 2 standard deviations under the mean. Okay, so you're at 2 standard deviations below the mean, or to the left of that. Okay, so if you look at this curve up here, if there's 99.7% within 3 standard deviations, then that gives you 0.3% left over. So if you take the 0.3% and divide it into the 2 ends, over here and over here because of the symmetry, you end up with 0.15% in each end. Okay, so if you want to find how much is below or to the left of this number right here, mu minus 2 sigma, you do 2.4% plus 0.15%. Okay, and that gives you 2.55%. Okay, so that's just a quick introduction to the empirical rule and using the normal curve with the empirical rule.